All right, so we're going to go over chapter 2 and chapter 3 today, and you should have a quiz about that tonight or maybe tomorrow night. I'm not sure which. I don't remember if I put it on the night of or if I gave you a day like before the next class period. So growth and development is the topic of the day. So why does knowing, I want you to tell the person next to you, why is understanding the way a kid grows or a child grows and develops essential to being a physical educator or running a physical education class? And go.
Because each kid is at their own level, and in order to let them have
Yeah, or the kid.
unless they can, yeah, and then the kid more maybe.
Well, I think you have to know how like speciality is like you have to know how to progress, so that they can be like they can learn the skill. And they try to tell them to do this thing,
They would.
and then they lose it.
Knowing the weird kids should
Or we have to
decide
run by all the time.
mentally, like in a classroom, it's the same where they should be physically in their physical education class. You know?
Everybody's both different. And my grandma used to just ignore like your students. And like where they're at home.
Wait, is your hat like most favorite people look out there together?
All right, can somebody tell me the person they talked to what their answer was if it was really good? Because I really liked this one over here, but I'm going to come back to you. Tell me what like the best answer of your group was. Don't everybody talk at once. Do any call people because you just don't want to go first? Is that what's going on? I noticed that everything's like backwards. If you ever I know that most of you are elementary teachers, but physical educators, you end up walking kids places all the time. And I stole like every lying trick that I could learn from all the elementary teachers I've been around. And the only thing I noticed is from K to 5th grade, being first in line is like the most important thing in your entire life. Being line leader is what one group called them. And it's like we get to the opposite by the time we get to college. Nobody wants to go first. Like you go from, I want to be first at everything to, oh, I don't want to be like out in front of everyone. All right, so what did you and David talk about? Remind me of your name again.
I'm Jessica.
Jessica.
We talked about how with children they're developing in many different ways. So you have to give them if it's a physical education class. You gotta make the vocabulary something that they understand, and when you're playing or showing them something, they have to know how to understand it too in their own age group.
I love it. What did your group come up with? Izzy.
We just talked about kind of the same idea, but like kids are developing all at different levels and stages, and like even if they're all the same age, that doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that in order to make them feel accomplished and like that they would love to enjoy like physical education class, that we make it a positive one rather than a negative, because that'll last them.
I love that answer. Maddie, what did you guys come up with back there?
Basically what everyone else said, but just that as much as they are mentally matters in the classroom, where they are physically also matters. To like be able to cater that and to know where they are and to adjust accordingly.
They're beating me to the punchline here. That's like the very next slide. All right, your answer was really good. You had a little extra to it there.
Yeah, it's just like knowing, like going along with what Maddie was saying about where like our students are mentally and physically, and also like forming that connection with them and their parents, so that we can figure out like their background and know like the best way to support them, especially regarding physical education.
I had a lot of trouble with a parent, and I'll probably refer to this This person was worse than, you've heard of like helicopter parents that like hover over their kids all the time, and then there's like lawnmower parents that like try to make life as easy as possible for their kids. This mother was both and worse. I mean, I gave him 10 points a day. If I gave her kid a 9, within minutes I had an email. Why did you give my kid a 9 today? What did he do? And he had unofficially he had Asperger's or autism in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, before school even started, I'm like, yeah, I was using a jump rope, and this is a 7th grader. I had a jump rope skills test and a mile run skills test. And this is the same school where that guy did the mile run every Thursday before I got there. But she was so concerned. She got him a special jump rope, and he actually ended up doing just fine, but it took him all year to be able to jump 100 times in 3 minutes. And that was a big accomplishment because he was at one point swinging it over and stepping over it, swinging over it, stepping over it for 3 minutes. He made laps around the gym while everybody else was jumping in place, and he got these like, one that had like ball bearing on the end to spin faster. He eventually did it. He struggled, but he got there. But he was, and he was probably 6'3" as a 7th grader. So developmentally, he was massive. And I had to get to really know the parent, who of course has a master's degree in special education. Spoiler alert, that happens a lot. Because people want to know about their kids, so they learn about it, and then they start working in it. Liliana, I'm trying to do attendance. Paula. Natalia, back there. Jordan. I think that's my one I have to record things for. All right, moving on. All right, so growth patterns are controlled by genetics. So that kid that was at 6'3" as a 7th grader, I haven't checked on him lately. And that's one of those weird ones, like that mother still like comments on stuff that I put up, like, because I put pictures of my son up and my daughter, and I'll get comments from her still, which is kind of weird because I haven't been there since like 2017. But yeah, her son was just massive, very, very early in life. So unhealthy environments can negatively affect a proper child growth and development there. And then next up, we have the kind of chart of where students start and continue at. By the way, I don't know if I said this earlier, but if you can't see that and I have to like turn the lights off or like move these things to like block things, let me know. This is only my 2nd day teaching in here. So this one would be kind of how fast kids grow. Notice at the very top there, they have like their height gained in centimeters per year. So their growth before age 1 is really fast. My daughter was born at 5 pounds, 14 ounces. And at her 2-month appointment, she was 8 pounds, 14 ounces. So I'm like, if you go like percentage wise, that was like a 60% weight gain from her original weight, and that's going to continually grow. They grow so fast that first year of life, and then 2nd year of life it kind of slows down, and then it kind of really like 2nd, 3rd. My son is 3 years old, but he's still wearing like size 2T toddler clothes because he's just not a super tall kid. Hopefully someday he will be. I need a basketball player. So the other part that it really changes, so you notice that they're really similar up until about age 9 here is what it says on this. I'm not sure if I totally agree with that. So age like 7, 8 would be like a 1st, 2nd grader. Some kindergartners are in that 5, 6, 8 range. I started at 6 years old. I was 7 by the time I finished kindergarten. School was a breeze for me all the way through because I was kind of older. Missy, my wife, started earlier. And she had a lot of trouble when she got to like algebra as a freshman, and she was like 13 as a freshman. Well, I was 14 as a freshman, and it was super easy. But I graduated high school at 19. So, I mean, there's trade-offs going both ways there. So elementary boys are generally taller and heavier. The girls reach their adolescent growth spurt a lot sooner, so like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And then the increased rate of obesity has also led to an earlier onset of puberty in girls. I've also read, and this is just kind of on the other side of that, that eating meat has made a big difference on that as well, and the hormones that they're putting into meat now to try to get it to mass produce. And then when kids eat that, it changes when they have puberty. I know like my mom ate meat growing up and she went through puberty at like 10 years old, 9 years old. And my wife was like, as totally vegetarian, still vegetarian, and she went through it at like 12 years old. So it was later for the meat eater, or earlier on the meat eater than the vegetarian. I'm not saying that's what every time, but there's some other things that could be a possibility, and that's just my own side note there. Students in grades K to 2 tend to be a little more top heavy. So there's center of gravity kind of lowers as they get older. So here's and these are not to scale, by the way. This is just kind of give you an idea. So like at birth, you're very even. The legs get a little longer by 2 years old. So this would be like my daughter. This would be like my son. And then 6 years old would be your kindergartner probably. So you just notice how they're getting longer legs. The proportion from like their torso to legs are getting longer. So it's like we just kind of change as we grow. Now that can change. I remember I got all these up here. So children's physiques affect the quality of their motor movement. I played against a dude as a freshman. Maybe I was 8th grade. I was homeschooling at the time, so I don't remember what year it was. But I was playing on the high school freshman team, and we played against a guy at Iowa School for Deaf. The dude was 6'9" as a freshman on the JV team. He was on the JV team because he had so much growth spurt that he couldn't even catch the ball. Anyone threw it to him, like his hands where he thought they should be were not there. It would just bounce off. He'd have a rebound, and he would jump to get it, and it would hit him in the side of the arm. He was so uncoordinated in the first game that we played against him, like first game of the year, and we played him a second time later, and at least then he could actually like grab it almost off the rim and then just put it right back. But he just had to hold his hands up there. I was 5'10" at the time. He was 6'9". I wasn't going to touch the ball, even though I could kind of jump at the time. So there's 3 major physiques. You're going to have a mesomorph, which is going to be predominance of muscle and bone. You're going to have an ectomorph, which is going to be a super skinny student with very little muscle development, as in their muscles just haven't grown yet. And then you're going to have an endomorph, which will be kind of a soft and round and probably a more protruding abdomen. And there's nothing wrong with any of these. I know our culture tends to say one is more preferable over the other. But at this age, it's just genetics. And even the older you get, it's still pretty much genetics, other than like 10%. But I mean, this would be one class. So you have very skinny people, you have more round students, and you just have to be very careful as the teacher to encourage them to just participate and be a part of it, and to also not kids, the older they get, so your 5th and 6th graders is where I find they start starting to have this pecking order more so than the rest of them. And when they come to physical education class, they feel they need to assert their dominance over each other. And it's not just the boys, it's like just school in general. I actually had more problems with the 5th and 6th grade girls than I did any other group of students in physical education. And that's just because they just wanted to like catfight each other. One girl was so big on having her backpack on that she wouldn't even put it down to run laps because she didn't want people to go through her backpack. I'm like, you're a 5th grader. What do you have in there, drugs? And she was like, I was like, I don't want to know. I just don't want to know. She got kicked out later. All right. So again, tell the person next to you why you think skeletal age makes a difference and how asking kids to learn might not be the right way to do it. Find a different person. Stand up. Go find a different person to talk to. Go.
everybody can
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah, but
It's
like,
like,
yeah.
so we have to make sure that,
Everybody's
yeah. Not just,
I fear for the teachers that used to like grab their student's phone and answer it for them. That used to be a thing, like when I was in high school. That's what teachers would do to embarrass you, so that you would remember to turn off your phone. But we didn't. There was only like 3 people who even had phones. It was black and white. All right, whenever you're done, you can sit down. All right, just for sake of keeping going here. So asking students to learn at the same rate, regardless of maturing level. The best story I have for that wasn't actually mine. I was trying to figure out how to be more effective in like my fitness testing. And I ran across a set of heart rate monitors. And one of the things that I took to my school board to try to get them to purchase heart rate monitors is, and this is at that same school that ran every Thursday before I got there, is they said, well, such and such a student was a 6th grader and they're supposed to run, I'm just going to throw a number, we're going to say a 9-minute mile. And the student crosses at 10 minutes. And the teacher normally would have said, you need to run a little bit faster because you didn't get under whatever the presidential fitness level was. But when you looked at the kid's heart rate data, the kid was running at max heart rate for 3/4 of that run that this kid did. So the kid was giving maximum effort and probably more than you would expect, because you really would expect it to be at like 80% for most of the run, not 100%. And so the teacher had the data to say, it was like, great job. You might need to take it a little easy. I don't want you to hurt yourself, because the kid was trying so hard to please and get that best run there. So different maturity rates can make a huge difference on how you as a physical educator talk to that student, or as you run a physical education class. Keeping going here. So strength increases as they get older, obviously. The lower body does not differ between the sexes, and yes, that is the proper term, when height adjustments are made. I always have people that would be like, man, if I was as tall as you, I could dunk a basketball. And there was always somebody like JT's size that looks at me at 6'3" and goes, I could dunk if I was your height. I'm like, no, you couldn't, because our legs are probably about the same, because, yeah. And I could just barely dunk. Upper body strength, on the other hand, is going to get higher in boys, especially as they get older and they get through puberty. But you're probably not going to be dealing with too many kids in puberty for lower elementary age. Oh man, I just went over slow twitch and fast twitch fibers in great detail yesterday in my other class. But your slow twitch fibers are the ones that are very fatigue resistant. Those are the ones they use when they run laps for a longer period of time. Your fast twitch ones are going to be more the explosive. When they play a tag game, they're going to be using a lot more of the fast twitch muscles rather than the slow twitch ones. Did I go too fast there? Some people are still typing. So the strength in relation to body size is a very important factor for whenever you're trying to select what skills you want them to learn. So what progression you're going to use. Your kindergartners are going to have a different progression for throwing a ball than a 4th or 5th grader. You're just going to change. You'll add more details. You'll put more steps to it, because like a kindergartner, the only thing I'm going to have them do is make a tee, pick an apple, point, step, throw. I'm not going to give them much more than that. And that even might be too many steps. I might go even less. But a high school or a 5th grader, I'm going to have like elbow lead, point your toe towards your target, rotate, face the other direction. So you'll add more things depending on the size of the student, and you'll also make their goals different. You'll have them throw from a little further back. You'll have them play catch from further back. You'll actually have them play catch because kindergartners are probably not playing catch. But 4th and 5th graders probably can. So higher levels of excess body fat are also likely to affect skill performance, and that is because they don't have as much flexibility, and they might not be able to extend their arms as far. It depends on what they're doing. I had some 3rd graders that this dude was chunky, but he was the fastest kid in the class. And I don't know how he did it so happily. I had that group running with rhythm, and it was trying to help the music teacher gave me the idea, which he had the stage, was the music department, so I was listening to his stuff, and he always had to listen to my stuff. Poor guy. It was interesting. But these 3rd graders had more fun running to the beat, and then they were like, do we have to run, or can we run in place? I'm like, sure. So they would, for some reason, they always congregated by the speaker. And they basically had a running dance party. And it was always this chunky dude that was the fastest guy that was like, come on, let's go do it. You go, kid. I wonder where he ended up now. He's probably in high school now. So aerobic capacity. Children are not little adults. They don't have the same amount of aerobic capacity as an adult does. So trying to say that they can run as much or as far as an adult is just not happening. If you ever do like adapted physical education, like the girl that had legs, she actually could run longer, even though I always felt bad. I was like, you're going to like hurt your nubs, aren't you? And she's like, nah, they're fine. And I'm like, okay. But she could run longer than everybody else because she wasn't having to use as much capacity. She didn't have as much blood to have to pump around. So she could go longer than everybody, which kind of surprised me. But when you think that same concept between adult and kids, so younger children, you're going to train, the training results in very little and increasing aerobic power, because unlike adults, the longer you run, the more you're going to be able to run longer. It doesn't work quite as well as that, but the kids on the other can recover really fast. So if you have them sprint for something, or I would say tag games are like king. Come up with a dozen different tag games that you can play all year long. And that's going to get them to run more and probably increase their aerobic capacity more so than, say, go run a mile. That's one thing I don't do a lot of in my classes anymore. I may have them run the mile once a year, and that's only if it's like required of something. Otherwise, I'm just going to have them run and do things that they're actually going to be moving, and then they have a point, then just run a distance. Because for some reason, when you say a distance, they all of a sudden have a bad something or other. My favorite one is, Coach, I can't run the mile, my pinky hurts. Not kidding, had that excuse. By the way, it was a 5th and 6th grader. They just didn't want to run. You have a question, or are you just stretching?
Oh, no.
All right. So this is where the age, and there is definitely a couple of quiz questions on this. When a kid is overweight, the amount, they call it the metabolic cost of that student, is going to be higher than another student. It's going to take more energy, more oxygen for them to move, and especially in proportion to their lung size. Because the lung size of a kid is not going to be that much different with their size when it comes to the amount of overweight they are. So it is not a bad thing to have an adjusted workload. The big one to me is workload should be based on time rather than distance. Another reason I don't like running the mile pretty much until like 7th grade at most, unless it's absolutely required of me. I didn't even run the mile in high school the last couple times I taught that. Just wasn't worth it. I'd rather have them run for 6 minutes at the beginning of class, or the one they always like to do is I told them on Thursday or Friday, whatever the last day of the week was, my favorite game to play outside of, actually I probably like it better than basketball, and that's saying something. I love basketball. Is a game called Dare Base. It is like the king of games. It's the never-ending game of tag, and that's why I like it. It is a chess match to try to catch people, and there's also, in some ways, no point. So it's not like Capture the Flag where you go grab the thing and you take it back. Hey, we win. No, there's no way to win unless you catch everybody. And however you're going to catch everybody, when the line gets longer and it gets 3/4 of the way across the gym, they're not going to be able to guard it, so they just get them out of jail, and then they keep running. And it's awesome. So I would tell them, all right, on Friday, instead of doing like workout stations, you can always convince me to play Darebase. And so every Friday they'll come in, we're playing Darebase today, right? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, you're going to run more doing that than you're going to be doing. So find whatever game your kids like and you know they're going to be the most active doing, and make that like the fun thing they do on the last physical education day of the week. And you're probably going to get more physical activity out of them. And then you can do it for a time rather than saying, go run a mile. Sorry if I keep hitting that one with a dead horse there. Oh boy, got to keep moving. So brains, so you guys are probably doing a lot of this in your other classes as well. So the structural changes change a lot during childhood. Long-term memory is formed between 9 and 12. So that means your kindergarten first graders don't really have a whole lot of long-term memory. So they're not, you can probably think back. Do you remember a whole lot of things from your kindergarten and first and second grade? I have very few memories of kindergarten. I remember the room, I remember the gym, I remember learning left and right in the gym during physical education class. And they were like, put your hand in front of you, the one that looks like an L is your left. I remember that, learning that in the gym. Don't remember much else of it. And you have your different stages here. Just make sure you know those terms there for a quiz question. Give you a second there, I need to keep going. As always, I talk too much, and I have a whole second thing to get through. All right, so developmental generally proceeds from head to foot in your students. So when you're designing your progressions for a sport and for your school year, so my kindergartners, first and second graders, I'm probably going to do things that are going to be more arm-oriented and then work my way down. So I'm going to work on throwing and catching a ball to themselves. I'm going to work on volleyball striking before I get to kicking a ball. And I've also noticed that my son is a better thrower at 3 years old than he is at kicking. He likes to kick, but he has zero control over it, where now he's getting to like, he puts the ball like behind his head, flings it at things. It's pretty funny when he does it. So people generally occur from inside to outside, so closer in. It's like big motor skills are much easier than fine motor skills. Same thing when it comes to legs. And they need to be more general to specific. So you need a gross, so big muscle movements rather than like throwing a dart is going to be very difficult for a small child or for a younger student than an older student. So you want to think when you're designing your year out, I want to go from head to foot on my progressions, and I want to go from in to out. I want to go big motions before fine motions. So managing arousal, the younger they are, the more overhyper they get. That's one of the joys of being a physical education teacher is when kids come to your class from K to 5th, they want to be there. Now it's the opposite when they get older than that. You get about half of them want to like refuse to be there. So hopefully you can do a good enough job as a teacher as in the lower grades that they love physical activity and that they'll still love going to physical education class when they leave your classroom. That's probably just a big goal there. So too little means they're not interested. Too much, that would have been me, means they're overdoing it and they just don't do anything right because they're just running around in circles. Providing good feedback. A lot of your feedback is going to be great job. Encouragement that, oh, you're doing it right. Oh, that's what I want to see. Those are the things you're going to be telling them. Very little in K to 4th is going to be actual like correcting form. Like as long as they're getting more repetitions on it, you're probably on the right track. And if they get to the point where they're getting fairly good at it and they seem to want to learn more, then you can give them more specific things on how to do that. So your practice sessions or classes, so emphasis should be placed on skill performance rather than the outcome. So if you're doing a layup, I care that they get the right position rather than if it goes in or not. I want to have the correct positions for throwing a ball rather than does their partner catch it. Because so when they say, all right, can you catch 3 in a row? They'll like walk really close to each other. And they'll just talk, 1, 2, 3, really quick. Where you really wanted them to actually use the motion. So I'll have them throw against a wall so they don't have to worry about somebody catching it, rather than throwing to a partner. Decide on whole versus part practice. So whole, they'll learn the whole thing, and then part, they'll learn just a portion of it at a time. Determining how long you're going to do things. So most people have like a 30 minutes or less physical education period. So determining how long you're going to do, you guys will have a 4-step lesson plan that you're going to do. So you'll have 4 at minimum activities. Sometimes you'll have multiple in there. But determining how long you want to spend on each individual part of it. And then do you want them to do like random practice where they could throw it anywhere they want, or they can go anywhere in the gym? Or do you have them all stand on a line and throw exactly at one direction? Those are some like random practices, or not, or more structured. And varying how they do it, like Izzy was telling us that they had the same 4 things the 4 days every week. So varying what you do. It's actually, I hated it because I'd have students walk into physical education and be like, Coach, what are we doing today? And I'd be like, it's on the board. Because I would write it down because I got tired of answering the question. But if they're so excited that they're coming into class saying, what are we doing today? That's probably a good thing. Take that as a compliment. Hopefully, if you're ever, when people are like, all right, it's time for math today, and the students are like, ooh, what are we learning in math today? I mean, wouldn't you rather have that kind of excitement than, oh, not math again? So teaching proper progressions, and we will go into this horribly. So much we're going to do progressions. Everything in physical education is a progression. So allowing them to learn the skills and play every position. So don't just have like one person being the pitcher all the time. That kind of thing. Try to find a way to make everybody be successful. Because if everybody can be successful in some way, whether it's, I'm just using examples because I just did football yesterday. Some people are really good blockers. Some people are really good at rushing the quarterback. Some people are good at throwing as the quarterback. It just depends, but trying to find places for everybody in every game that you're playing so that they're not just dreading playing that game. So 2 areas of concern for all physical educators is 1, avoid physical injuries. So don't do things that students are purposely going to get hurt on. It's another reason why I don't play a lot of dodgeball, is I had more dodgeball injuries probably than everything. Another game that I don't like as a teacher, and especially for like recess, is tetherball. You guys know what tetherball is? I have seen, they put tetherball up at the academy that I was working at for the elementary school, and there were more kids coming in with tetherball injuries than any other game in recess that entire year. And they broke it, and then they just let it go. Like once they broke off the string, they're like, we're done. Tired of dealing with all the injuries, because they would whack the thing, they would come around and hit them in the back of the head. Go figure. Side note, if you do have that at your school and you're trying to keep it safe, make sure that it is higher than a 3rd grader's head. Because it's that 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grader that they're going to hit it and it's going to swing around and hit them. So having it so that it's like at their arm's reach, so adjust how high that is, or you may want to put it totally out of lower graders' reach so that they can't play it because the upper graders have more coordination to do that. So those are just an example of ways to make it safer. And also developing positive attitudes. We've talked about that a lot already. And humidity. We don't have a ton of humidity here, but you may get a job teaching in, let's say, Tennessee or Florida, where there's tons of humidity. The actual, I love this chart. You may just want to take a picture of this. So like if the humidity is at 70% and it's 80 degrees, that's probably okay to still go outside. If it's 70% humidity and 90 degrees, you may want to keep them indoors. When I taught at Bass Academy in Mississippi, we were like 60 miles from the coast. And I very much had, at the beginning of the year, we were inside doing volleyball first at that school because it was too hot to be outdoors. So you just got to know that there's like some danger level. This is just kind of a generalized chart there. And I would use this for like soccer games when I was an athletic director or any outdoor sports. Like if it was too hot, we would cancel the game. Oh, here you go. You do need to know how you want to handle water breaks. Easy one that I like to do is I never deny a kid water. If a kid asks me for water, let them go. They probably need it. They're probably dehydrated anyways. In my smaller kid classes that I only had for like 20 minutes, I didn't have like a structured water break because it takes forever to get 20 kids, let's say, through 2 water fountains. Now, after class, that's how I would finish class. Everybody line up on wherever their thing was. Line leader over here, everybody else behind. All right, we're going to walk out here. And I said, all right, you're going to have a 3-second drink. Otherwise, you're going to have that person that wants to drink for 30 seconds while everybody else is watching them. And then you end up taking 5 minutes or more at the end of the class period, and then the teacher's upset that they were supposed to teach whatever they were supposed to do. So a 3-second break is awesome. Distance running up to age 12, they shouldn't run more than 800 meters. I just don't like it in general. Fitness testing, we will go over that a whole bunch. Doing it at the beginning of the year is not good. Teach them how to do the tests before you actually give it to them. Like make a whole unit on fitness testing where they practice it, and then make it part of their warm-up how they practice it. Then you do your fitness test on it. And resistance training is okay. They're not going to gain like muscles because they don't have the testosterone or estrogen to make the muscles any bigger, but they will get stronger, and good technique is a good thing to have. So having a small weight training unit with very light weights is appropriate for K to 4th grade. And we're going to keep on going so we can get a little bit into the next section here. So next chapter. So there are a lot of good things about having a kind of whole school physical activity program. So more than just your physical education class that you're either the teacher of or running, but having like a whole school approach for, we're going to have, in between classes, they're going to have a break and they're going to do this. At the end of this, at lunch, everybody walks 1 lap before we go back to the classroom. Or maybe even just like school walks, where if you're teaching in like a 1-room school, everybody goes for a walk around the block or, wherever that is, wherever it's safe, keyword there. So benefits for physical activity in adults. This is a fairly normal thing, but hypertension, high blood pressure, cancer, arthritis, diabetes, all those are on the rise because physical activity is going down. The more physically active, the less of these markers you're going to have in your bodies and going forward. So decreasing that risk is something that starts in elementary school. So also it's going to improve their quality of life. You get better sleep when you're physically active. Kids learn better when they're physically active. That's a huge part of that, and we'll go into way more detail about that one. That there's also less depression and anxiety in people that are more physically active. And we're going to keep on going here. So all these are great things. So physical activity for kids and youth, they're going to have better bone health. They're going to have better weights, so decreased chances of obesity. And all those things there are just good. Give you a couple seconds to type that out. Trying to get through. We ain't going to make it. 35 slides in 10 minutes. It ain't going to happen. So this goes on the class, things that you may have to read before you take the quiz kind of things here. Oh, man, I could do... Oh, this is beautiful. So physical activities effects on the brain. So increasing heart rate, everything is going to get more oxygen to the brain. That used to be all that they said. They're like, oh, more oxygen to the brain means you're going to be smarter, you're going to learn better. And they actually have gotten to a hormone, I don't remember if it's right, I think it's a protein that it helps the brain's plasticity. So that would mean like once you learn something, you never unlearn it. Or some people are like, oh, I can't learn math. And that's not right. Well, my parents couldn't do it, so I can't do it. Well, your brain is able to morph and change and do better because of a protein called BDNF, biometric diprotein neurotrophic factor. So this stimulates, when you exercise, you're going to get an increased level of BDNF, and that's going to stimulate growth and chemicals in your body that are going to help with emotion, heartbeat. It's going to improve the prefrontal cortex and the medial cortex, which is your thinking and memory. So that BDNF that comes from when you're exercising is going to make your thinking and memory better in you or your kids. So that's like the medical side of everything there. And I got entire PowerPoints on just BDNF. Oh, super cool stuff.
What is
And I have it here. Even better.
BDNF? BDNF stands for Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Factor. It's a protein, actually, and it's been called a master molecule and referred to as Miracle Grow for the Brain by Harvard psychiatrist John J. Rady, MD, author of Spark, the revolutionary new science of exercise and the brain.
If you want to know more about how exercise helps the brain, great book. It's about a 6 or 7 hour listen on Audible.
According to Rady, BDNF is a crucial biological link between thought, emotions, and movement. Basically, BDNF improves the function of neurons, encourages new neurons to grow, and protects them from stress and cell death. BDNF binds to receptors in the synapses between neurons, increasing voltage and improving signal strength. So you may be wondering, how do I get more BDNF in my brain? I'm sorry to report that even though there are expensive supplements available online, there's no evidence to show that they help. However, the good news is you can get more BDNF for free by exercising. Daily aerobic exercise is best, at least 30 minutes, but including intervals of sprints is even better. In a recent German study, volunteers who did 2 3-minute sprints, separated by 2 minutes of lower intensity exercise, during the course of a 40-minute treadmill session, demonstrated higher increases in BDNF than non-sprinters. Not only that, the sprinters learned vocabulary words 20% faster than non-sprinting exercisers. It seems that even a small amount of high-intensity exertion can have a profound positive effect on your brain, your ability to learn, and your memory. Now, I want to caution you, be sure to have a talk with your doctor before engaging in high-intensity sprints or before beginning any exercise program. It's important to have aerobic conditioning in place before adding those intervals of sprints. At least 6 months of 6 days a week aerobics, according to Dr. Rady. And even then, check first with your doctor. But the thing to remember is that if you want more BDNF, it's time to get up and get moving, because it's good for your body, it's good for your heart, it's good for your spirit, and it's good for your brain.
So if you learn nothing else in this class, remember that whole section right there of why you want to be physically active. Whatever you're craving. That is interesting. Now I've got a bunch of those on there, so that's going to make this entertaining.
I'm ADHD. Can you tell?
Oh boy. So there is a newer version of this. Student attention on tests were affected in 2010. I'd love to see, I think there was a 2020 study done as well on this. So participation in physical education is definitely associated with better grades. And you can thank the California for that, because they make all the people do the California Fitness Gram tests, which you're going to learn here later. But because they could do that, they can take like their, what are the standardized tests in California for kids now? I always took like the Iowa basic skills test. There's something else for California.
Maps.
Oh, it's MAPS now. That's right. I know that's what all the Adventist schools are doing now. But you can take those FitnessGram scores, like if they get a passing score, and to their MAPS scores. And there is a correlation that the more physical ones that they can pass, the better grades they're getting on those MAP scores. It's really kind of interesting. And I don't know if I have that one in here. I'm kind of scared to keep going because I'm going to hear myself talk and it's just weird. So youth should have appropriate things to do and this is a play 60 minutes a day of moderate to physical activity. And this doesn't have to be like running laps. So playing tag, playing games, they could be lifting weights. They could be, doing, planks, stuff like that. It doesn't have to be just run. Kids get really bored really fast. More of me talking. So the greatest portion of cumulative minutes for students is going to be in interactive, active play. So unstructured stuff, so like climbing, tumbling. That's why we have playgrounds, because that actually is very good for kids to use those big muscle groups to climb onto things. Doing household chores. It's really fun to have my 3-year-old try to do household chores with us. He doesn't do them, he just pretends. So he's got like little brooms and stuff that go with it there.
Some active and recreation.
So the next one would be like aerobic sports and recreational stuff. So this would be jogging, walking, brisk things. Not as easy to do with little kids, but for yourself, that would make a whole lot more sense there. I'm gonna keep on going. See if I can get through these.
So part of that 60 minutes of
So trying to do the things 2 to 3 days a week, as much as you can. So trying to have that much time in your student's day when you plan out your elementary classroom of having 60 minutes 3 days a week where they are more structurally physically active, maybe not like totally physically or structured for the whole time of it, but trying to keep that number up to 3 times a week is really important. And then on the other side, getting enough sleep is really good as well. I really want to try replicating a study that Stanford did a couple of years ago where they took how much sleep their Division I basketball players were doing, and they said, here is your free throw percentage and your shooting percentage. And they said, we want you all to get 1 hour more of sleep. And the ones that did get another hour of sleep, later in the season, they checked their free throw and shooting percentages, and they all went up with another hour of sleep. I was like, didn't think it would have that big of a difference. I was just like, they're going to come out like it's inconclusive. So it was really interesting. So rest makes a big difference on all those things, and that's as far as we're going to get today. So I made it through a third. So you're going to have to do a little more reading on chapter 3 before you take that quiz tonight. All right, have a wonderful day.